The cold bites into my fingers as I press them against the sewer grate. Above me, Riften goes about its morning business. Merchants hawking their wares, guards making their rounds, citizens pretending not to see the branded man who used to be one of them. I have been down here since yesterday, hiding from the eyes that follow me everywhere on the surface. My stomach has forgotten the shape of food. Every footstep above me, every splash in the distant tunnels, sends my heart slamming against my ribs. They already caught me once. They brought me back. They marked me. Now I exist in a space between living and dying, and I am finally ready to tell you how I arrived here. The Thieves Guild does not forgive, and it certainly does not forget. I made one choice, spoke 3 words to the wrong person, and now I understand something that every thief in Tamriel learns eventually. You do not leave the guild. You do not cross the guild. And the moment you betray them, you stop being a person and become a message written in suffering for anyone else who might consider the same mistake. My name does not matter anymore. Names are for people with futures, with families who might mourn them, with friends who might remember them. I have none of these things now, but 3 weeks ago, I had all of them. I was a footpad in the Riften chapter, running small jobs, picking pockets at the market, slipping through windows to lift silver candlesticks from merchants too stupid to hire proper guards. It was not glamorous work. The songs and stories make thieves sound like romantic figures, dancing through moonlit manors and outwitting guards with a wink and a smile. The reality is cracked fingers from lockpicks that slip, the taste of your own fear as you hold your breath in a wardrobe while the house's owner walks past, and the constant gnawing awareness that you are one mistake away from the dungeon or worse. But it was a life. I had a small room in the Ratway, a corner of warmth in the endless damp darkness. I had coin enough to eat. I had brothers and sisters of the shadow, people who would watch my back on jobs and share a bottle of mead when the night went well. The guild took care of its own. That was the promise they made when they inducted me 3 years ago. Delvin Mallory himself pressed a blade to my palm and told me that from that moment forward, my old life was dead. I belonged to the guild, and the guild belonged to me. We were family. Family. The word tastes like copper and ash in my mouth now. I should explain how I ended up pressed against this grate, flinching at shadows, waiting for the knife I know is coming. You deserve to understand what betrayal actually means in the context of the Thieves Guild, and what it costs. Not the abstract notion of it, but the grinding, specific, hour-by-hour reality of what happens when you become an enemy of the most connected criminal organization in Skyrim. It started with gold. It always starts with gold, does it not? A man named Erikur, one of the Thanes of Solitude, reached out through intermediaries. He had a proposition. The guild had been running jobs in his territory, skimming from merchants under his protection, and he wanted information, names, routes, the locations of guild caches. In exchange, he offered 5,000 septims and safe passage out of Skyrim, a new life in High Rock, far from the Ratway's stench and the constant paranoia of thief work. He wanted a spy, and he found one in me. I did not accept immediately. I want you to know that. For 2 weeks, I agonized over the decision, weighing my loyalty against my exhaustion. The guild life had been growing heavier, jobs were getting more dangerous. The new guild master had been pushing us harder, demanding bigger takes, less caution. I had watched 2 footpads get killed in the span of a single month, their bodies dumped in the canal where the guards would not ask questions. The romance had bled out of the profession years ago. What remained was just survival, and Erikur was offering me a way out that did not involve a guard's sword or a merchant's hired muscle. So I said yes. The information I provided was not comprehensive. I told myself that lie to help me sleep. I gave Erikur the names of 3 fences operating in Halfingar Hold, the location of 1 cache near Dragonbridge, and the schedule for a shipment the guild was planning to intercept. Small things, peripheral damage. No one would trace it back to me, and the 5,000 septims would buy me passage on a ship before anyone realized what had happened. I collected my payment on a Fredus evening, the coins heavy in a pouch against my chest. I remember thinking that I had done it, that I was free. In 3 days, I would be on a boat to Daggerfall, and Riften would become nothing but a bad memory fading in the distance. The guild found out in 2 days. I do not know how. Perhaps Erikur talked. Perhaps one of the fences survived and described their visitors' methods, recognized something uniquely mine in the way the guards knew exactly when to strike. Perhaps Nocturnal herself whispered my treachery into the guildmaster's ear. The Daedric Prince of Shadow and Secrets takes a personal interest in those who swear to her service and then break faith. Some say she can taste betrayal in the darkness, that every lie told in shadow reaches her ears eventually. I had not thought much about Nocturnal during my time with the guild. She was an abstract patron, a symbol stitched onto our armor and invoked in oaths but rarely felt as a presence. Now I wonder if she has been watching me all along, if my fate was sealed the moment I accepted Erica's gold. The veterans speak of Nocturnal's curse, though never loudly. They say that those who truly anger the Lady of Shadows lose their luck forever, not in the metaphorical sense, but literally. Locks that should open jam forever, shadows that should hide reveal. Every chance outcome turns against them. Every gamble fails. Every desperate hope proves false. I did not believe in such things before. Now, watching the relentless perfection of the guild's pursuit, the way every escape route closes just as I reach it, the way every ally turns before I can speak to them, I am not so certain. It does not matter how. What matters is that I woke on Sunday morning to find a shadow mark carved into my door. Not a safe mark. Not a warning of danger. A new symbol, one I had never seen in my 3 years with the guild. 3 diagonal slashes through a broken circle. I did not know its meaning then. I learned it quickly enough. The symbol means you are already dead. Your body simply has not realized it yet. I ran. I should have known better. In my panic, I grabbed what I could. The coins, a dagger, a few days of dried food, and I fled through the Ratway's back passages, the ones only senior members were supposed to know. I thought I could reach the surface, steal a horse, ride for the border. I had a head start. I had training. I had 5,000 septims to bribe my way past any obstacle. I did not have any idea what the guild was capable of when it wanted someone found. The first sign was the merchants. Every shop in Riften closed its doors to me. Not rudely, not with confrontation, but with a smoothness that spoke of coordination. I would approach a stall, and the keeper would suddenly need to check inventory in the back. I would enter an inn, and every room would be mysteriously occupied. The message was clear. The guild's network extended into every legitimate business in the city. I was not going to buy supplies. I was not going to find shelter. I was not going to find help. The second sign was the beggars. Riften has dozens of them, clustered in the wooden walkways, huddled in the temple's shadow. They were guild eyes, every one of them. I knew this, had used them myself on jobs. But knowing it abstractly and experiencing it were different things entirely. Everywhere I went, I felt their gazes tracking me. Not hostile, not obviously threatening, just watching, reporting, making sure the guild knew my position at every moment. I tried to leave the city on the first night. The gates were not guarded any more heavily than usual, but as I approached the eastern exit, a woman I had never seen before fell into step beside me. She said nothing. She simply walked at my pace, close enough that I could see the guild's mark tattooed on her wrist. When I turned back toward the city center, she peeled away and disappeared into an alley. The message was received. The borders were closed to me. On the second day, they took my money. I do not mean they robbed me in an alley. I mean that I woke in my hiding spot, a cellar beneath an abandoned warehouse, to find the pouch gone from around my neck. The cord had been cut so cleanly that I had not felt it. They had been inches from my throat while I slept, close enough to count my breaths, and they had taken only the coins. The implication needed no explanation. The third day brought a different kind of torment. I found a note pinned to my shirt when I woke, just a list of names. My mother, my brother, the woman I had once courted before joining the guild, the merchant in Whiterun who had given me my first honest job years ago. Nothing else, no threats, no demands, just names. The message was clear enough. The guild knew everyone who had ever mattered to me, and they wanted me to spend every waking moment imagining what might happen to them. I tried to send warnings. I found a courier, one of the independent runners who work outside the guild's influence, or so I thought. I paid him with a silver ring I had hidden in my boot, the last valuable I possessed, and I begged him to carry messages to Whiterun. He took the ring, nodded solemnly, and walked directly to the Bee and Barb, where I later learned he handed my letters to a guild contact. They read everything. They knew I was trying to protect my family, and they used that knowledge. The next note I found contained a lock of hair, dark hair, streaked with grey, tied with a simple cord. My mother's hair. I recognized it immediately. The note said only 3 words: "She sends greetings." I do not know if they hurt her. I do not know if they visited her at all, or if they simply found the hair some other way, through a barber or a household servant. That uncertainty was the point. I spent the next 48 hours paralyzed by images of my mother, alone in her home in Whiterun, being visited by strangers who smiled politely and never quite made threats. The Guild understands that imagination is crueler than reality. They gave me just enough information to torture myself. Without money, without supplies, without allies, the city became a trap, with walls of social exclusion. The Ratway was obviously impossible. That was their territory, their home. The surface was a maze of eyes and closed doors. I found myself pushed, gradually but inevitably, toward the Canal District, toward the places where the city's forgotten gathered to die. That is where Brynjolf found me. I had not eaten in 36 hours when he appeared. He simply materialized from the shadows the way senior guild members could, his red hair catching the light from a distant torch, his smile carrying all the warmth of a Nordic winter. He looked at me crouched behind a pile of rotten lumber, and he shook his head with what might have been disappointment. "Lad," he said, "did you really think it would be this easy?" I do not remember what I said. Something desperate, probably. Begging, maybe. Brynjolf had been my mentor in the early days. He had taught me how to pick locks, how to move silently, how to read a mark's body language. Some part of me still believed there was a connection there, some residual loyalty that might grant me mercy. He let me speak until I ran out of words. Then he crouched down to my level, his face close enough that I could smell the mead on his breath, and he explained what was going to happen to me. The Guild does not kill traitors quickly. That would be mercy, and mercy is not a message. When someone betrays the family, they need to serve as a warning to anyone else who might consider similar foolishness. My punishment had already begun with the isolation, the stripping of resources, the psychological pressure of being hunted through a city I once knew as home. But that was only the first stage. The second stage was the cutting. Not cutting in the sense of blades, though that would come later. Cutting in the sense of severance. The Guild would reach out through its network and cut every remaining tie I had to the world. My family in Whiterun would receive visits from strangers who would explain, politely, that their son had accrued debts he could not repay. They would not be threatened directly. They would simply be made to understand that association with me carried costs. My former friends outside the Guild would find their businesses suffering mysterious setbacks. Anyone who had ever shown me kindness would learn that kindness toward me was a liability. The Guild does not just destroy traitors, it salts the earth around them. Brynjolf stood up, brushing dirt from his knees. He told me that I had a choice. I could stay in Riften and let the process unfold over weeks, watching everything and everyone I had ever cared about suffer for my decision. Or I could leave the city and take my chances in the wilderness. He neglected to mention that the wilderness option was not actually an option. I ran again. What else could I do? I slipped out through a drainage grate that night, swimming through water cold enough to stop my heart, and I emerged on the shore of Lake Honrick with nothing but the clothes on my back. I headed south, toward the border, toward some imaginary safety that I knew even then did not exist. The Guild's reach extends far beyond Riften's walls. The first 3 days were almost peaceful. I moved at night, slept during the day in abandoned hunters' blinds and shallow caves. I found enough food to keep myself alive, berries and roots and 1 rabbit I managed to trap. I told myself I was going to make it. I was going to cross into Cyrodiil, find work, start over. The Guild's influence surely had limits. On the 4th night, I found a shadow mark carved into a tree beside my sleeping spot. On the 5th, my boots vanished while I slept. On the 6th, I woke to find a lock of my own hair placed neatly on my chest, cut so close to the scalp I could feel the stubble. By the 7th night, I had stopped sleeping entirely. I sat with my back against a rock, my stolen dagger clutched in trembling hands, screaming at the empty forest to show themselves, to end this. No one answered. The silence was worse than any threat. I started seeing shadow marks everywhere, carved into stones, scratched into bark. Most were probably my imagination, but some were real. The Guild has allies among the hunters and trappers who work these woods. My entire journey south was mapped and monitored by eyes I never saw. Every mile I traveled, they were there. Every moment of hope, they crushed it with some small violation. My feet became raw, then blistered, then infected. Without boots, every step was agony. I stopped moving south and simply started moving, directionless, delirious, waiting for the end that would not come. It was Vex who finally caught me. Not Brynjolf, not a hired blade, but Vex, the guild's best infiltrator. She found me collapsed beside a stream somewhere in the southern rift, too weak to run, too tired to fight. She sat on a rock nearby and watched me for a while, her expression unreadable. "You should have just taken the hit," she said eventually. "Broken fingers heal. Lost coin can be earned back. But this?" She gestured at my ruined feet, my hollow cheeks, my eyes that had forgotten how to look at anything except threats. "This is what happens when you run." I asked her what came next. She told me the truth. The guild had made its point. The network had reported on my suffering, spread word through every fence and footpad in the province. Anyone thinking about betrayal now had a clear picture of the consequences. My educational value was nearly exhausted. But nearly was not completely. The final stage of guild justice is not death. Death is release. The final stage is return. They brought me back to Riften in a cart, my hands bound, a sack over my head. I could smell the city before I saw it, the fish and the rot and the wood smoke that had once meant home. When they pulled the sack away, I was in the ratway, in a room I had never seen before. Torches lined the walls, and a brazier glowed in the center, iron implements heating in the coals. The branding took less than a minute. A senior guild member whose face I could not see pressed the hot iron to my forehead, while two others held me still. The pain was extraordinary, a white flash that seemed to erase thought entirely. I screamed until my throat tore. When it was done, they released me, and I fell to the floor, my hands scrabbling at the wound before they restrained me again. They kept me in that room for 3 days, while the brand healed enough to be recognizable. I received water, but no food. No one spoke to me. I had time to understand what the mark meant, to feel it become part of my flesh, to know that I would wear it until the day I died. On the 4th day, they dragged me to the surface and set me loose in the market square at noon. The mark that means untouchable in the worst possible sense blazed on my forehead for all to see. No one in Riften will speak to me, employ me, or acknowledge my existence. I am a ghost in a city of the living, visible to everyone and seen by no one. This is my punishment for betrayal, not death, but erasure. I walk the same streets I walked as a guild member, past the same merchants I once robbed, and I am nothing, less than nothing. The beggars have better standing than I do. At least people see them enough to give them wide berth. I am looked through as if I am already dead. The days blur together now. I wake in whatever corner I have claimed, my joints aching from the cold stone, my skin itching with filth I cannot wash away. I shuffle through the market at dawn, hoping to find scraps before the guards chase me off. Sometimes a merchant will accidentally drop a bruised apple or a crust of bread, and I scramble for it like a dog before the other beggars notice. They do not share with me. They know what my mark means, and they fear the guild more than they pity another starving wretch. They feed me, if you can call it that. Every few days, I find a package of stale bread and rancid meat in whatever corner I have claimed for sleeping. Enough to keep me alive, not enough to keep me strong. The guild wants me visible, present, a walking reminder of what happens to those who break faith. They do not want me dead because dead men do not suffer, and they certainly do not serve as ongoing warnings. I have considered ending it myself. The canal is right there, deep and cold. A few minutes of struggling, and the water would do what the guild refuses to. But every time I approach the edge, I find my feet will not move. Some animal part of me still clings to life, even a life like this. Or perhaps the guild has anticipated this too. Perhaps they have someone watching to make sure I do not escape even into death. The cruelest part is the understanding that I earned this. I did betray them. I did sell information that led to arrests, to deaths, to the destruction of resources the guild had spent years building. I told myself the damage would be minimal, that I was only providing peripheral intelligence, but I knew even then that I was lying to myself. Every piece of information I gave Erikur had weight. Every name I spoke was a person who trusted the guild's protection. When I chose 5,000 septims over that trust, I chose to become exactly what I am now. The Guild's justice is brutal, disproportionate, designed to inspire terror rather than achieve fairness. But it is not random, it is not arbitrary, it is the logical extension of a simple principle. The Guild survives through trust. When that trust is broken, the response must be severe enough to ensure no one ever breaks it again. I am not a victim of cruelty. I am a lesson being taught. I watch the new footpads sometimes, the young ones just starting their careers in shadow. They walk past my corner without meeting my eyes, but I know they know who I am. The older members would have told them my story. Look at that one. That is what happens. Remember his face. That could be you. And maybe it works. Maybe my suffering prevents 10 future betrayals. Or maybe the Guild just enjoys demonstrating its power, and all the talk of lessons is rationalization for cruelty. I have thought about this endlessly. The code exists not because the Guild values honor, but because it understands leverage. When you join, you learn secrets that could destroy you if revealed. You commit crimes carrying death penalties in every hold. You become dependent on the Guild's protection, its fences, its network of bribes. Every thief who considers breaking the code must weigh personal gain against the certainty that the entire organization will turn against them. I used to think I understood this. I estimated my chances of being caught at perhaps 1 in 5. Bad odds, but not impossible. What I failed to understand was that the Guild does not operate on probability. They operate on certainty. Once I betrayed them, capture was not a possibility but an inevitability. I have had a lot of time to think about it. That is all I have left, really. Thinking and waiting and watching my own decay. The infection in my feet has spread despite my best efforts to clean the wounds. I can smell the rot beginning. Without treatment, I will lose them. Without feet, I will lose mobility. Without mobility, I will lose the ability to scavenge even the scraps the Guild provides. The progression is clear, inevitable, patient. Perhaps that is the final lesson. The Guild does not have to kill me. They simply have to wait, and my own body will complete the sentence they imposed. I want to tell you that there is hope. I want to end this account with some glimmer of redemption, some possibility that I might yet escape or find mercy, or at least find peace. But the Thieves Guild does not traffic in hope. They traffic in certainty. They are certain that I will never betray them again. They are certain that everyone who sees me will think twice before considering similar treachery. They are certain that in the end, I will die in this city, alone and forgotten, having served my purpose as a message. And they are right. If you are listening to this, if you have ever considered crossing the Guild or any organization like it, hear me clearly. There is no amount of gold worth what I have experienced. There is no escape clean enough to outrun a network that spans every city and every road. There is no betrayal small enough to avoid consequences that will unmake you completely. I know now what I should have known from the beginning. When Delvin pressed that blade to my palm and told me my old life was dead, he was not speaking metaphorically. He was stating a literal truth. The person I was before the Guild ceased to exist in that moment, and the person I became, the Guild member, the footpad, the shadow in Riften's night, that person had only one possible future, with the Guild until death, or marked for a suffering worse than death. There was never a third option. The water in the canal is rising. The rains have been heavy this season, and the streets are flooding. I should probably move to higher ground, find a new corner to claim, but my feet hurt. And I am so tired, and the shadow mark on my forehead burns like it did the day they put it there. So I will stay here a while longer. I will watch the water climb. I will think about the choice I made and the price I am paying. And if the Guild is watching, if they have someone in the shadows right now taking note of my continued existence, I want them to know that I finally understand. You give everything to the family. Your skills, your loyalty, your future, your life. And if you ever try to take any of it back, the family collects with interest. The Thieves Guild does not forgive, it does not forget, and it never, ever lets go.